The rain on the harbor city wasn't gentle. It was a needling, icy drizzle that blurred the amber glow of the streetlights and made the cobblestones slick. It was the kind of night that urged you to hurry home, to shut the world out. For Mike Rourke, home was a modest two-story walk-up overlooking the commercial docks, a place he'd chosen for its quiet and the view of the water, a reminder of a different life. Inside, the world was warm. The smell of grilled cheese and tomato soup still hung in the air. His daughter, Chloe, 8 years old with hair the color of wheat and eyes that missed nothing, was in her pajamas, practicing her reading aloud to him. Mike listened, his large calloused hands resting on his knees, a faint smile touching his lips. The scars on his forearm, both seen and unseen, seemed to ache thus in these moments. A decade as an Army Ranger, followed by a quieter decade as a single father, had taught him to cherish this peace above all else. "Daddy?" Chloe said, her voice cutting through the storybook tale. She was standing by the window, her forehead pressed against the cool glass. "What's that?" Mike was beside her in an instant, the soldier's switch in his mind flipping without sound. Below, in the dimly lit alley that ran between the closed fishery and the old bait shop, figures moved. 3 men, shapes in dark jackets, had cornered a smaller figure against a rusted dumpster. Even from this distance, Mike could see the menace in their posture, the closed-in circle, the aggressive lean. The smaller figure was a woman, clutching her bag like a shield. He was already reaching for his phone, the numbers 911 half-dialed, when the wind shifted, carrying a sound up to their window. It wasn't a scream, but a desperate, choked sob. And then, clear as a bell through the rain, a young voice from a ground-floor apartment adjacent to the alley cried out, "Daddy, please! Daddy, please help her!" The plea was a physical thing. It bypassed logic, debate, the cautious citizen's hesitation. It went straight to the core of him, to the father, to the man who had taken oaths to protect. The phone clattered onto the sofa. "Chloe," he said, his voice suddenly gravel, "go to the back room, lock the door, don't come out for anyone but me, understand?" His eyes never left the scene below. She understood. She had seen this version of her father only a handful of times, a focused, still intensity that was both frightening and reassuring. She scurried away. Mike didn't run. He moved. He grabbed the heavy, solid oak walking stick from its place by the door, a relic from his own father, not a weapon, but tonight it would serve. He was down the stairs and into the alley in under 30 seconds, his boots silent on the wet ground. "Evening, gentlemen," he said, his voice cutting through the drizzle. It wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of command. The 3 men turned. They were young, faces sharp with arrogance, and something else, desperation, maybe. The smaller figure, hardly more than a girl herself, sagged against the dumpster, her eyes wide with terror. "This ain't your business, old man," the largest one spat, taking a step forward. He had a knife, the blade catching a sliver of light. Mike assessed in a heartbeat. The alley was narrow, limiting their ability to surround him. The dumpster was at his back left. He shifted the grip on the walking stick, holding it like a rifle at port arms. "It became my business," Mike said, his stance widening slightly. "Walk away, now." What happened next was not a brawl. It was a brief, brutal lesson in applied physics and anatomy. The leader lunged. Mike sidestepped, the knife missing his ribs by an inch. The walking stick came down not on the man's head, but on the brachial nerve cluster near his shoulder. The knife clattered to the ground as the man screamed, his arm going dead. The second man swung a chain. Mike ducked under it, drove the butt of the stick into his solar plexus, and as he doubled over, brought his knee up in a controlled metronomic motion. The man crumpled, gasping. The third man hesitated, the fight draining from him as he saw his friends dispatched with terrifying efficiency. He backed up, turned and fled. The leader, clutching his numb arm, scrambled after him, dragging his winded friend. The alley was suddenly quiet, save for the rain and the ragged breathing of the young woman. Mike approached her slowly, hands open. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears now mixing with the rain on her face. "Thank you. They wanted my purse." "Come on," he said gently, guiding her toward the well-lit street. He saw a patrol car turn the corner, alerted by a neighbor, no doubt. He gave his statement succinctly to the officers, pointed out the direction the men had fled, but downplayed his own role. "Just got lucky, scared him off," he said.
He made sure the young woman, whose name was Ella, was safe in the squad car before heading back inside. Chloe was waiting at the top of the stairs. He swept her into a hug. "The lady's okay, Bug," he whispered into her hair. "Thanks to you." "I was scared," she whispered back. "Me too," he admitted. And he was, not of the men, but of the world that required such moments. The incident faded. The local paper ran a small blurb: "Veteran interrupts attempted robbery." Life returned to its rhythm. Mike went to work at the shipyard as a foreman, Chloe to school. The memory of the alley was stored away in the compartment where he kept such things. Until, 3 Saturdays later, the knock came. It wasn't the firm rap of a delivery man or the cheerful tap of a neighbor. It was authoritative, measured. Knock, knock, knock. Mike opened the door, expecting a solicitor. The man on his porch was in his late 50s, trim, with a bearing so straight it seemed to defy the very pull of gravity. His hair was steel gray, cut close. He wore a civilian overcoat, but everything about him, from his sharp eyes to the way he stood with his weight perfectly balanced, screamed military. Behind him, at the curb, idled a dark sedan. "Michael Rourke?" the man asked, his voice a low baritone. "Yes?" "My name is Rear Admiral Samuel Thorne." He didn't offer a hand. His gaze was assessing, missing no detail. "May I come in? It's about the incident on the 14th, and about your daughter." A cold knot formed in Mike's stomach. His daughter. He stepped back, ushering the Admiral in. "Chloe," he called, keeping his voice even, "can you go finish your drawing in your room for a bit?" The Admiral stood in the modest living room, his presence making it feel smaller. He accepted no water, didn't sit. He looked at the photos on the mantel, Mike in uniform, Chloe as a baby, Chloe now. "I've spent the last 3 weeks," Banks said without preamble, "running a full background check on you, Sergeant Rourke. Your service record in the 75th Ranger Regiment is exemplary. Your discharge was honorable. Your work record is spotless. You are by all accounts a good man and a devoted father." Mike said nothing, his senses on high alert. "The woman you assisted in the alley," Thorne continued, turning to face him. "Her name is Ella Marcos. She is the fiancée of my son, Lieutenant James Thorne, a pilot currently deployed overseas." He paused, the weight of the words filling the room. "The voice you heard that night, the child who called out, that was my granddaughter, Lily. She lives with Ella while my son is away." Mike felt the floor shift beneath him. The random alley, the random act was suddenly not random at all. "Lily has night terrors," Thorne said, and for the first time the iron facade cracked, revealing a profound, weary anguish. She saw what was happening to her mother figure. She called for her father, who was 8,000 miles away. She called for a hero. Thorne's eyes, the color of the North Atlantic, locked onto Mike's. "You came." The Admiral took a step closer. "My son called me from his carrier, sick with helplessness. He'd heard the police report, heard what you did. He asked me to find you, to thank you." Thorne's jaw tightened. "But I am not here just to thank you, Sergeant." He reached into his inside coat pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. He opened it. Nestled inside was not a medal, but a simple, burnished silver coin. It was a challenge coin, the kind carried by senior officers. On one side was the naval seal, on the other an inscription, "To Michael Rourke, for answering the call. Semper Fidelis." "This is a token," Thorne said quietly, "but it comes with my word. You protected my family. From this day forward, you and your daughter are under the protection of mine. If you ever need anything, you call this number." He handed Mike a plain white card with only a phone number engraved on it. Mike stared at the coin, the magnitude of the moment settling over him. This wasn't about gratitude. It was about a sacred acknowledgement, one warrior to another, one father to another. "How is Lily?" Mike asked finally, his voice rough. A flicker of warmth touched Thorne's stern features. "She's better. She tells everyone about the big soldier who listened when she called. She asks if her daddy sent you." The two men stood in silence. The Admiral had said what he came to say. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door. "My son comes home in 4 months. He'd like to meet you, to shake your hand. He gave a short, sharp nod. Carry on, Sergeant. And then he was gone, the sedan pulling away into the rainy afternoon. Mike stood by the window, the heavy silver coin warm in his palm. He looked out at the harbor where the gray water met the gray sky.